Hi, everyone. I'm Lindsay Jenrick, and I'm sitting here with Patricia Obi, and we are Canada's lightweight women's double from the Rio 2016 Olympics. And we are happy and excited to move forward with the WISP Sports podcast that we've been asked to do, likely monthly. It's a great opportunity. One of the reasons why we really wanted to do it was that Patricia and I have had a great partnership in rowing, but also a wonderful friendship off the water, well, on the water too, which is what made it so much fun. And we have a lot to talk about. And we're constantly texting each other, we're constantly chatting, and even though we don't see each other every single day for about 6 hours a day anymore, our interactions are almost daily. And so not only do we have a good connection, we also have a lot of passionate and I'd say intriguing thoughts and feelings about sport, and definitely rowing, obviously, considering we're rowers. And I think this podcast is a wonderful opportunity to connect with each other, regularly, but also share with all of the listeners, our thoughts and our feelings about sports, rowers, women in sports. A lot of the things that we would cover hopefully will be, mental health. Why don't, Patricia, you kind of explain that maybe?
Yeah, so we kind of had a unique path in sport. We spent a lot of time, just the two of us, without a coach or maybe without equipment or funding for certain patches of time for various politically charged reasons. But that kind of, I think, brought us together closer and as a partnership, and gave us a lot of insight into things like we had to deal with mental health issues in our combination, kind of what it feels like to be a female in sport that's dominated by really tall males. And we also kind of, I guess, the basis of like our podcast here is that we kind of chat a lot, and a podcast is kind of a perfect place for us to keep chatting and kind of help others who are maybe wondering about situations when you're kind of maybe left on your own, or maybe similar political situations that people are running up against in sport, but also in life. Lindsay and I a lot of times would get kind of made fun of a little bit for being so chatty. I think for a little while our nicknames were Chuckles and Chuckles because we were always chuckling on the water and other people could hear us.
I actually forgot about that. A good one.
Yeah,
good memory.
Yeah. I remember one of our teammates came up to us one day and he says to us, like kind of shaking his head, "Do you guys ever run out of things to talk about?" And because we'll be just chatting like a stream without even noticing what's going on. So a podcast seems like a perfect outlet for us to carry on talking about these kind of things.
Yeah.
Lindsay, do you want to maybe talk about partnership?
Yeah, so I think considering we had a pretty unique coming together in rowing. So women's double, we have only the one event at the Olympics. And so as you would imagine, a double's just two people. And I was already in with a girl. We'd actually won the World Championships together in 2010. And for those of you who don't know, the year preceding the Olympic Games, so in that regatta, the World Championships, is hosted as an Olympic qualifier for the Games, and you have to place top 8 in the light women's double in order to earn your country berth. So about 3 weeks scheduled to start, Tracy came down with, I say that like it was a cold, Tracy broke her rib straight up, so she couldn't, and Patricia had been around training me basically in Victoria. That's maybe a whole other podcast story, but we were alone together with all the men in Victoria leading into that 2011 summer, and breaking the rules, making people angry, as we seem to be good at doing. And luckily though, we did break some rules and make people mad, because when Tracy broke her rib, there was actually a person very capable and ready to step in and take her place, because this was an extremely important World Championships. Like I mentioned, it was a qualifier. So in a really hot situation, Patricia stepped in and really played a great role. And I think given that, no offense here, it's the facts, Patricia was pretty novice. And so it was a scenario where if we weren't on the same page, or if we weren't communicating well, if we weren't also having fun, because, you had to consider, what were you, Obi? Like 19?
I was 19. Yeah.
Yeah. So like you've got this 19-year-old girl rowing with, I was 28 at this point. It was quite an age gap. And it could have really gone in a lot of different bad directions. But I think that something makes me feel like it was all just meant to be, because I've really never experienced a relationship that flowed quite so seamlessly through really a lot of stress. You could imagine that, we were in a city, we're training in London. It was a city that neither of us particularly liked to be. This is London, Ontario. We operated and worked with a lot of people that we weren't super keen on working with. We had a coach that we really struggled to have a good relationship with. And so you could just imagine that all the factors that an athlete should take care of in terms of being a good situation were really not for us. And so what we learned very quickly was that each other was each other's best advocate and best support system. And I think that's a bonding experience that, A, is super valuable, and B, is something that a lot of people don't actually even get to experience in a whole lifetime. So I think it's, we kind of, I just got married this fall, and there's times when, me and Obi are together with our partners. They're both actually rowers. Well, Gabe, my partner, he was, and Will is still, aiming towards Tokyo. And we get together, the four of us, and it's just sort of like a joke about like who actually should be married in this group, because we're just really supportive of each other. So you could imagine that led into a pretty strong relationship. And of course, long story, but we ended up racing in London together, and it didn't go the way we wanted. And I think that there was a lot of circumstances surrounding that. Again, maybe another topic for another podcast, but basically, that was just yet another experience that brought us closer. And I think that we learned a lot from that, and it's why we managed to have such a wonderful, successful quadrennial as we move forward into 2016. And I think that is actually, I think it would be really awesome that, given all these ups and downs, that we decided that we're going to dub ourselves the Dirty Double, as you probably noticed the podcast is titled, and going into 2016. And I'd love for Obi to share the story of like how that came to be before we kind of get into the nitty gritty of today's topic.
Yeah, so we I think it was 2015 when we first got our hashtag name, Dirty Double. There was a men's four at the time that had called themselves hashtag the True North Four, and we were hanging out. We have the dinner at Little Thai Place every Friday. Just kind of a group of rowers that, everyone's invited. There's kind of a core group that would go most weeks, and us and the True North Four were a part of that core group. And we're sitting around, and the True North Four says to us, Colin actually says it, who's competing at this World Championships for Canada. He says, what's your guys' hashtag? Like, you guys gotta have a name.
I think he was really thinking he was going to stump us too, right? Like we weren't going to surpass the True North 4 quality hashtag.
Yeah. We kind of throwing out these ideas, and then at some point someone says Dirty Double, and Lindsay just latches onto it. I wasn't that keen on it because I was thinking of, there's like certain innuendos that can come out of hashtag Dirty Double, two girls rowing a boat together. I don't know. But,
our mothers were definitely wondering what it was all about.
Yeah. Lindsay was really into it. Like I could still picture her face. Like she was stuck on it. And I was thinking, okay, I guess this is kind of what we're in for. Like I don't see Lindsay wavering from this hashtag. Then it took a little bit longer to grow on me actually. But then I started to realize how much it suited us because we were always kind of on the fringes of Rowing Canada. We were always kind of doing stuff a little bit, I guess, the dirtier way. It wasn't as like straight and narrow and simple and clean as some other people's paths to the podium may be. And it kind of suited our racing style at that time. We kind of had a come from behind style of racing that could be classified as kind of dirty. yeah, and this brand just really worked for us. We kind of started to own it a lot, and it helped us through times that were
really crap.
Yeah, I'm just trying to say it without swearing. But we would kind of draw it and be like, oh, this is our jam, though. We're the Dirty Double. There was a lot of talk about the water in Rio being really dirty, and we got interviewed a lot before the Olympics. Are you worried about how dirty the water is, and are you worried about getting sick in Rio? We were like, oh no, like this place is made for us. Like we're the Dirty Double. So that was kind of, I guess, a little bit about our name. I kind of forget about it now. I think I need to like remind myself a little more often that we're the Dirty Double, because it's kind of makes you feel a bit badass, actually.
Yeah. No, I feel like I'm pretty proud of it. I mean, as you know, I really tried hard for it. Yeah, I think the big thing that you mentioned there was like how it got us through. You know, like it kind of like developed as our own culture, and I think that culture was like integral in us being so successful in Rio, because I mean we were both in London. We saw how smooth and almost perfected the whole rowing situation was at that Olympics, probably like the whole Olympics in general.
Yeah.
And it's like completely different scenario in Rio, and like you remember all the canceling of racing, the rain, and like I really felt like I latched onto that motto a lot in that time, and it made, I think that's what everyone should know is what Obi and I have developed as a trait, or maybe it was just our natural personalities coming together that was so successful at this, but we did a really good job of turning bad situations into sort of comedic, funny conversations, and I think that without that we wouldn't have got through a lot. But like, which sort of leads us on to the main topic of today, which is the behaviors that athletes will elicit around competition. And I think that Obi and I both have our very own distinct sort of traits, and they've definitely morphed, and they're not always identical worlds to worlds, but they're sort of like an underlying personality that you bring to a competition. And I think that that's another area of joking and reflection for us in our relationship, because as I mentioned, in 2011, we came together in a pretty unique scenario, and I was the really experienced athlete. Obi was, like, for lack of a better descriptor, a novice, and it was a scenario that was a very high stress because it was an Olympic qualification. And I think this was like our first sort of experience of each other at a regatta. And it's really, I don't think you'd find this story too often, but what happened was I'm always traditionally a very nervous racer. I get super nervous around racing, and I really aim to be observant of others, and especially those that I'm working closely with. And I find that I do draw a fair bit of confidence from their demeanors. I've always been quite lucky to row with another athlete that doesn't get quite as nervous as I do, or at least doesn't show it outwardly as much as I do. And so that's always been like a very good sort of grounding tool for me. So here I am, 28 years old, world champion previous year, very experienced, been rowing now for, 15 plus years. And Patricia is my source of confidence as a 19-year-old novice, because she's just having the time of her life. She's loving the food, she's loving the location, she's having fun on the team. She's got her own room, giant room, which if anyone's been to Europe would know that that's just like big rooms that just don't exist there, except for this one that Patricia had. And, she's just having a ball. And I think that it was great reflection for me, because it was almost, again, ignorance sounds like a really negative word, but in this case, like, she was ignorant to the field in a lot of ways, and that allowed her to be judging what she thought she was capable of and what she thought we were capable of as a double, just entirely off of her own, just her own belief in herself. And it was a really great reflection for me, because I thought, we are fast. We have done great things. We've got a great partnership. We're really good. And so to look outward is just not necessary.
Obi, why don't you explain to everyone your point of view of 2011?
Yeah.
Well, I actually was recently thinking back on how I acted in 2011 because I'd only been rowing for, I'm not sure it was even 2 years at that point.
No, I don't know.
Yeah, it was a very short period of time since I first picked up an oar to that Olympic qualification regatta where I was rowing with a world champion. And for some reason, I felt so confident. And I just started my master's, and I feel really unconfident. I'm like, ooh, I don't really know this. This is all new. I don't know how it's going to go. And I was like, wish I could capture 2011 World Championship me again, just having no idea how it's going to go, but feeling like it's going to go well.
Maybe it's called being 19.
Yeah, I know. I need to bring back my teenage mind here, loose of this rational thought I have. So I just had so much fun, and I don't know why I felt like I was pretty good, and I thought Lindsay was pretty good, and we were gonna probably get a medal, which we did get a medal. So I guess that thought was right. I don't know. I didn't really use any data to figure that out or feel that way. I remember kind of thinking like, ooh, like Lindsay's pretty nervous to race with me, which kind of makes sense because I'm a novice, but I think, we're good, but she seems to be nervous about it. And I think she did reassure me one day that it wasn't just racing with me. It was just racing in general for her, that she was that nervous. But I was like, how she looked, I don't know if I would be that into rowing if I felt that way before racing. I remember thinking like, this is terrible. And I really hope this isn't what's in the future for me. And unfortunately, I actually did become more and more nervous throughout my rowing career. And for a while I had to kind of pretend I wasn't because of Lindsay being so nervous. I wanted to help her out. But that only lasted so long before I was like, hey, Lindsay, I'm also just really, really nervous too now. But I think that was
great because in the end, that like honesty, right? Like, yeah, we got to a point where we were just so honest with each other, and it was more important for me to see you just admit, like, yeah, I'm freaked out. Yeah. to pretend that you're not, because once you get to know someone so well, anyway.
Yeah. So we wanted to talk about this year's Worlds that's happening. It starts on Sunday, I think. It's in Florida this year. And we know a few people on the team who are racing for Canada. And we know a few people who are racing in the lightweight double event because we've raced them in the past. There's actually a couple doubles that we race. So, I guess, Lindsay, you can kind of maybe, how do you think people are feeling right now? Maybe we could do the Canadian team. How do you think a couple of people we know on the Canadian team are feeling right now?
Yeah, to like link it back into kind of like what we were saying, like I do feel that one of my fondest, feelings towards rowing overall, like we extract like the actual physical part of the sport out of it, was getting to know you so well in a way that it was like we could be at a regatta scene and just like we just operate it. It was like a clock that all had its parts moving, and every part was doing the thing it needed to do, but no part was getting in the way of the other part. There was like anticipation of each of the parts, right? Like it was just so seamless in our operation. And I think that was definitely what led to a lot of our success. And I think, I don't really 100% know this for sure because I'm not in their country and in their boat, but I would lean towards saying that most doubles over time, the successful ones, the ones success being on a podium, are the ones that are operating that way. And I think it's why you see so many combinations stay together over time, because you need to develop that almost like that anticipation of each other and what the other person's going to do and how they're going to act. And I think that we've got a lot of new crews on this team, and maybe they won't necessarily, like, I don't know, maybe they don't understand or know yet the value of that kind of relationship. But I think we could assume that given the newness of a lot of these crews, especially the smaller boats, that they're probably not going to have that yet. So I think it'll be an interesting feeling for a lot of them, because a lot of them are going into this like our 2011, like they don't actually know each other and what to expect and that how to act. But again, it's also, you can kind of have to consider, it is a post-Olympic year regatta. That's very different than an Olympic qualifier. it's a different kind of pressure, and it's a pressure in, what would you say, kind of like newness, right? Like, if you're doing something for the first time, you kind of want to prove something, but it's not necessarily in the big picture of an Olympic Games, a huge amount of pressure. There's a lot of time to adjust here after this Worlds. One thing that I do think is really interesting is something that I actually can't recall if I've ever known Canada to do this ever before, but we'll be doubling up in the light women's double and quad. I saw those entries as a double up, and what do you think about that one? Because that's an interesting choice.
Yeah, my favorite part about being a lightweight woman is that there's only one event at the Olympics, because it makes it pretty, I like the simpleness of that. You go in your one boat, you have your one focus. I've doubled up once at a regatta, and it was because someone else got sick and I had to jump into a women's 8. But I didn't have to train and go into the regatta with the focus of 2 races. I'm not overly envious of those girls having to do that, or maybe they want to. I think the
consideration that a lot of people aren't probably thinking of right now too is the making weight, right? Like lightweight rowing, you're making weight, so you're doubling that up too.
That's actually a good point. I didn't even think about that. That's a lot of weight making. Yeah, I wouldn't be keen on that. I'd be interested to hear from those girls how they find that experience. It also, like you said, takes the focus off the combination of the double, if it's not your only thing. Canada's actually sent a couple doubles. We have the light women's double, and we have a men's double as well, which is, since I've been on the team since 2011, Canada's never had a men's double. Actually, that's not true. They did in 2012. Recently, I guess, in the last 3 years, they haven't. But I'm curious. We're good. Lindsay and I are both good friends and have competed a few times with one of the guys in the double, and it's really interesting watching his relationship with his partner grow, and kind of how they do things that's maybe a bit different than Lindsay and I. I think it's because we kind of see our other doubles, like other lightweight doubles at regattas, and we speculate on their relationship and how they're maybe feeling, how they're interacting, but we don't really know.
Yeah, we just kind of like to pride ourselves in the fact that we just assumed ours is better.
Yeah. It's hard to... Go ahead.
Another thing I was thinking this morning, Obi, was like, there hasn't been a later World Championships like this since 2010, when it was in Karapiro in New Zealand. I mean, that was a little bit later, because I think we raced our final on November 5th. But that is another thing to consider. Like, you've got a lot of... Maybe it's better that some of them are newer because they wouldn't know the difference, but that's definitely a consideration when you have a season that goes in this late, because generally speaking, once athletes are trained for the year this long, they're in a rest period right now. And so it'll be interesting to see how that goes and how the program accounted for that longer season and that large gap between World Cup 3 and World Championships. So looking forward to see how that goes with that too. Not to mention the hurricane.
Yeah. I think I'm interested in this regatta because I have friends racing in, but the regatta that's right after the Olympics or the Worlds right after the Olympics is always not very indicative of how the rest of the quadrennial will go. So although the results are interesting to me, they don't have as much weight. That's why I don't feel myself as emotionally connected to this regatta as maybe I will probably next year even. Lindsay, do you feel that way too a little bit? It's kind of... Yeah,
definitely. I think like a little bit removed.
Yeah.
And also, I'd be lying to say that it wasn't partly due to the fact that, it's still a bit raw for me. Like, I definitely have chosen to retire, and I don't regret that choice, but there's a love in that feeling of going to Worlds and being, at your peak and your best and competing that way. I don't know if that pang of always wanting to do that will ever really go away. So for me, watching it right now is it just hurts just a little bit because I'm not completely removed from wanting to be in that position myself.
Yeah, I haven't actually thought about it like that, but that might actually be why I'm emotionally not as connected as I would have thought I would be, because I'm just not allowing myself to, because then it will hurt a little bit. That could be a little bit of a protective mechanism I'm using. I think we are kind of coming to the end of our show here time-wise.
Yeah.
So any last words you want to say, Lindsay?
Yeah, I guess just, who's ever out there listening today, thank you so much for tuning in. It means a lot to us that we have this opportunity, and we really hope that we can deliver. We want to be honest. We want to be raw, just like the Dirty Double hashtag. And we really hope that we provide you some kind of not only entertainment, but insight and maybe just some thoughts and intrigue into the world of sports. And most importantly, we hope that, you can relate over time to our experiences and find some kind of comfort, or maybe even a straight up solution to something that you might be going through from our past experience. So thanks for tuning in, and I really look forward to talking more in the future.
Yeah. And so for more conversations from the world of women's sports, there's some articles, videos, blogs, and more than 700 podcasts. If you check out the website, wispsports.com. Also can be followed on social media at Wisp Sports, Wisp as in WISP. And we'd love to hear what you guys think about our show. And we're pretty open to talk about any topics that people want to hear. So if you drop a line or a comment on the Facebook page, you can send a message to info@wispsports.com. If there's a topic that you want to hear about, or you have some feedback for us, that would be awesome. Until next time, I'm Patricia Obi, and I'm here with Lindsay Jenner. Thank you for listening.